Edward of Woodstock, known to history as the Black Prince, was the archetype of the medieval warrior prince.
Medieval type warrior prince archetype.
Charismatic and lethal.
Very
Though he never ascended the English throne, his military prowess and personal legend
he was that dude
have
on the
echoed
field.
through the centuries. Born in 1330 into the royal house of Plantagenet, he was the eldest son of
Plantagenet,
Edward
that's a
III
fucking
and
name,
Philippa
isn't it?
of
Jeez.
Hainault. As heir apparent, Edward was expected not just to inherit a crown, but to secure and expand England's dominion by force if necessary. This is the story of a prince forged in the crucible of the 100 Years' War, celebrated for his victories, feared for his fury, and remembered for a legacy that casts both light and shadow. Edward's upbringing coincided with a period of renewed dynastic ambition. His father, Edward III, laid claim to the French crown in 1337, initiating what would become the 100 Years' War, a prolonged series of conflicts between the kingdoms of England
Beyonce's
and
weak as
France.
fuck. Imagine growing up and you're
From an
knowing you're about to
early
go in
age,
this war.
Edward was immersed in the values of
die.
chivalric kingship,
Like, bro,
loyalty,
you'd have me fucked up.
piety, honor, and above
I'd be
all,
like, dog, my
martial
leg is
excellence.
done. I can't even war right
His
now.
education encompassed
I can't even do it.
languages,
Joel
Latin,
Embiid, bro. Like,
theology,
the
and
knee's
heraldry,
gone. I don't know what you want
but
me to
his
do.
most
I gotta sit on
intensive
the bench.
training was military. At just 7 years old, he was created Earl of Chester. 1 year later, he was named Prince of Wales, an explicit recognition of his future kingship. These were not merely ceremonial titles. They reflected Edward III's intention to use his son not just as an heir, but as an instrument of war. The first great test of Edward's military capacity came at the Battle of Crecy in 1346. Then aged 16, he was given command of the vanguard of the English army during one of the most critical engagements. The English force, composed roughly 12,000 men, faced a numerically superior French army under King Philip VI, possibly double in size. Edward's role was far from symbolic. He fought in the thick of the conflict, commanding longbowmen, infantry, and dismounted knights. According to the chronicler Jean Froissart,
but like back then, didn't they fight in some weird ass way? Like, did they fight with honor back then? Because I remember hearing about guerrilla warfare and like
Edward III,
the Civil War.
Let the boy win his spurs. The English victory at Crecy was
but like with the U.S. and Britain, and it was like guerrilla warfare, and everybody was like, "What the fuck is this? This shit ain't honors." So like, what type of wars were these? Were they like strategic?
He had earned
like,
his
I'll
place
fire
among
my
the great
bowmen
captains of Europe.
At the
Following
shields.
Crecy, Edward played
What
a key
will they
role
do
in
then?
the siege
Like, or
of
were they just
Calais,
like running at
which
each other?
resulted in the city's capitulation after 11 months. Calais became a vital English enclave on the continent, held until 1558. In 1348, Edward III founded the Order of the Garter, a chivalric order inspired by Arthurian legend and dedicated to the cult of knighthood. Edward of Woodstock was named its first knight. These honors reflected more than lineage. They marked the emergence of a prince whose image was carefully cultivated to represent the ideals of medieval kingship. Edward's most celebrated military achievement came at Poitiers in 1356 during a campaign deep into French territory. Leading an English force of perhaps 6,000 men, Edward was confronted by a much larger French army led by John II. Outnumbered and cut off from reinforcements, Edward chose to stand and fight. He positioned his archers on high ground, used natural terrain to control the battlefield, and deployed dismounted knights to form a solitary infantry corps. After hours of intensive fighting,
Curry on the 3.
English archers devastated the French cavalry, and the French army
and he had Andre Iguodala coming up.
Astonishingly, Edward's men captured King John II himself, along with his youngest son Philip. This was a profound humiliation for France, and a diplomatic windfall for England. The French king was brought to London and held in honourable captivity for 4 years. A ransom of 3 million was eventually negotiated, an extraordinary sum, and the Treaty of Brittany in 1360 formalized England's temporary territorial gains. Edward's personal conduct after Poitiers was praised widely. He reportedly treated John with generosity and chivalry, reinforcing his image as the ideal medieval knight.
The real.
In 1362, Edward was granted the Principality of Aquitaine by his father and relocated his court to Bordeaux. Here, he attempted to transition from general to governor. However, the region's fractious politics, along with Edward's own temperament, complicated matters.
He's a dickhead.
His administration struggled to extract taxes from a resentful Gascon nobility, and unrest simmered. The prince's fortunes declined further following the ill-fated Castilian intervention of 1367. Edward supported Pedro I of Castile, known as the Cruel, against his rival Henry of Trastamara. Though Edward won the Battle of Najera, the campaign drained his finances and exposed his troops to disease. More critically, his health, which had already been deteriorating, collapsed. Edward's exact illness remains unknown. Chroniclers describe weight loss, chronic fatigue, and severe gastrointestinal symptoms. Theories range from dysentery to tuberculosis or Crohn's disease.
To AIDS.
Despite his condition, Edward led a punitive expedition against the city of Limoges in 1370 after it defected to the French. The siege ended with the city's sack. According to Froissart, as many as 3,000 civilians were killed. Though modern historians question the accuracy of that figure, arguing it may have been exaggerated for dramatic or moral effect. However, after his death, a requiem mass was held for him in France. Would the French celebrate a man who had slain 3,000 of their own? Nonetheless, the event tarnished Edward's chivalric reputation. The prince who had once exemplified honor on the battlefield was now seen by some as a symbol of vengeance and cruelty. Edward returned to England in 1371, physically broken and politically sidelined. He withdrew from public life, though he remained active in court matters intermittently.
And his pops was king. That's gotta be sick.
In 1376, he supported reforms in Parliament against powerful court factions, showing a final flash of political agency. He died later that year, on June the 8th, 1376, aged 45. He predeceased his father by a year. His death left the succession in the hands of his 10-year-old son, Richard of Bordeaux, who would ascend the throne as Richard II the following year. Edward was buried in Canterbury Cathedral near the shrine of Thomas a Becket, a deliberate choice that signaled his piety and prestige. His tomb bears an inscription that reads, "Such as thou art, sometime was I. Such as I am, such shalt thou be." The nickname Black Prince only emerges posthumously from the 16th century onwards. Its origins remain debated. Some suggest it referred to the color of his armor. Others believed it alludes to his ferocity in battle. Despite his early death, Edward's reputation endured. Chroniclers like Froissart and modern historians such as Jonathan Sumption regard him as a military prodigy, perhaps one of England's most gifted battlefield commanders. Yet his legacy is a paradox, a prince who won glory but not a crown, who embodied both the ideal of knighthood and its darker realities. Edward of Woodstock lived in an age where kingship was measured in blood and steel. He may never have worn the crown of England, but his victory shaped a generation, and his memory still lingers in stone, in song, and in the long shadow of war. He was the prince who might have been king. He was the Black Prince.
Oh my gosh. That's sick. Listen. I'm not gonna hype him up too crazy because I know they were all them princes back then were doing some wild shit. I don't know. But he knew that war. Man, they were just bored as fuck back then, huh? Like, they were just focused on the wrong thing. Just bored as shit. Had nothing to do. And weren't focused on, like, scientific discoveries and, like, advancements in society. Like, not like that. But, like, you know. In technology, I mean. You know. They weren't on that, bro. They were just fucking... Who has a war for 100 years? Like, you were at war for 100 years? Really? Alright, bro. Alright. But it was good. It was a good vid. Did I like that horses vid? Yeah, I'm gonna like it. I'm gonna make sure I liked it.